Good morning, everyone. Good morning, yes. Thank you for joining us in person or at home for our annual spring Ohigan Service. Higan is a Japanese Buddhist celebration which occurs during the spring and the fall equinox. During these two times, lightness and darkness, day and night, are in balance, and Buddhists would be reminded of the Mahayana path of the 6 paramitas, which are generosity, ethical conduct, patience, effort, concentration, and wisdom. As Shin Buddhists, we observe Higan as the expression of our gratitude to Amida Buddha for awakening us to the boundless compassion and wisdom. This appreciation in our daily life is the Shin way of expressing our gratitude for the wondrous virtues extended to us all equally and unconditionally. Living the Nembutsu is itself the Bodhisattva practice of perfection. Namo Amida Butsu. Let's all turn to the Three Treasures one on page 8 in the purple service book. It's also displayed on the screen. Hard it is to be born into human life. Now we are living it. Difficult it is to hear the teachings of the Blessed One. Now we hear it. If we do not realize the truth in this life, when will it be realized? Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in the Buddha. May we absorb ourselves in the principle of the way to enlightenment and awaken in ourselves the supreme will. I take refuge in the Dharma. May we be submerged in the depths of the doctrine and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. May we live in harmony in the great assembly as disciples of Buddha and be freed from all hindrances, becoming units of true accord in the life of harmony, in a spirit of universal oneness, freed from the bondage of selfishness. Even through myriad ages of kalpas, hard it is to hear such an excellent, profound, and wonderful doctrine. Now we are able to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of Tathagata's teaching. Namo Amida Butsu. Now we'll do sutra chanting led by Reverend Henry Adams. It will be Sanbutsuge, page 79 in your purple book, and it's also displayed on the screens.
Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda.阿弥陀如来の存在に申して申さく、それに重み入れば、浄土を号する友軽は、はるけき昔よりこの方、 春秋の柿にあたって夕日沈む西方の彼方に涅槃寂情の浄土の望みを仰ぎ願わくは如来大悲を垂れて所感したまわんことを敬って申す。 I speak in veneration before this sacred image of Amida Tathagata's great compassion. Let us reflect on the path of our lives, which have been guided since the distant past to the pure land of the Buddha's wisdom and compassion. During the spring and autumn equinoxes, the sun sets directly in the west and calls us to clarify the direction of our own lives as we aspire for the realization of the peace and tranquility of nirvana in the Buddha's pure land. I hereby state our humble wish to be illuminated by the Buddha's great compassion.
We'll now have a Dharma talk with Reverend Henry Adams, our supervising minister.
Namanda Vutsunamanda 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 Vutsunamanda. No. Please join me in Gassho. Gassho onegaishimasu. The 33rd vow of Amida Buddha. When I attained Buddhahood, the sentient beings throughout the countless and inconceivable Buddha worlds in the 10 quarters, having received my light and having been touched by it, will become soft and gentle in body and mind, surpassing humans and devas in those qualities. Should it not be so, may I not attain the perfect enlightenment. Namandavits, 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 namandavits. Good morning, everyone. Oh, so wonderful to actually be able to hear folks back. We had for the time in the fall been together here in the Hondo, but it's been a while, and it's wonderful to be back together here as we observe and welcome our Ohigan Service. Ohigan being the autumn equinox and the spring equinox services. Today, of course, we're observing our spring equinox, the time when the sun sets directly in the west, when the length of the day and night are equal, a time when we can reflect upon the direction of our lives. And it is our custom in the Buddhist traditions of Japan during this equinox season to reflect upon the 6 paramitas. The word paramita, it's a Sanskrit word which means to cross over, to arrive at the other shore. And so that's the meaning of Higan, also means the other shore. And so there are these 6 virtues that are embodied in the lives of those who arrive at the other shore of awakening. The virtues of generosity, the virtues of ethical living, following guidelines to live a good life, the virtue of patience, virtue of diligence or hard work, the virtue of concentration, paying attention to what needs to be done, and the virtue of wisdom, to see things as they truly are. So among these 6, which one is the most difficult for you? Is there one that you have a hard time with among these 6? For me, I struggle with patience, to be honest. I have a hard time. I get impatient sometimes, and sometimes I get kind of angry or irritated. Does this ever happen to you? Do you ever get angry or irritated? I see some heads nodding, right? What are some things that irritate you and make you upset? Anybody? No? We're in a room full of Buddhists. Everybody is very calm and peaceful all the time, right? Right? If you do, I notice some of you kind of nodding that you get angry or irritated, annoyed sometimes. You're not alone. This is part of the human condition and has been so since humans have evolved, right? Since the time of the Buddha, also there was anger and irritation was a problem, right? Last month for our Nirvana Day service, I talked a little bit about the Buddha's cousin Devadatta. Devadatta was someone who was a member of the Buddhist Sangha, but he really struggled to embody the virtues of the Buddhist teachings. Devadatta, when he would listen to the Buddha teaching the Dharma, which brought peace to so many, he would get jealous and angry. Why does everybody respect him and not me? Why does everybody look up to him? That's just my cousin Sid, right? Why is everybody so respectful? And he would hold this anger in his heart, and he would do little things and great things to cause trouble for the Buddha. And on one occasion, the other Sangha members asked the Buddha, it's like, what's the deal with Devadatta? Why is he so hostile to you? Why does he have this anger toward you? You who live with such peace, you who share so freely the wise teachings that bring happiness to all. And the Buddha said, this anger did not begin in this lifetime. This is something that has been with us through lifetime after lifetime. And the Buddha at that time, he says, let me share a story with you. A story with you about those who live in the many realms and how we have journeyed together lifetime after lifetime. For in the Buddha's teachings, we're taught that this life that we live today, this human life, is the culmination of many lifetimes cycling through, we talk about 6 realms of existence. 6 realms of existence. The human realm which we live in now, the favorable birth, but there are also unfavorable births. Birth in hell realms, the realms of the hungry ghosts, the animal realms, the fighting titans or the asuras, and the heavenly realms. So there are these 6 realms, and we've all journeyed through these. And so the Buddha said, let me tell you a story about some beings who are dwelling in the animal realm, in the realm of the animals, and they were as birds. And so Kevin has some an image that I asked him to share on the screen. This is a close-up. I took this just before service. Poor Kevin. I came in here, giri, right before service started, and I took the picture and I emailed it, and I said, here, Kevin, will you share this on the screen during service? And so this is a close-up picture of one of these panels. If you look at this table in the front, this table we call the Maijoku, can you see there are these 6 squares here? There are 6 squares in the front. Each of these squares has a picture of a bird, right? There's a peacock, there's a cockatiel, there are many beautiful birds, and there's this bird. If you look at this bird, what do you notice about this bird? There's something really unusual about this bird in particular. It's very kind of stylized. I'm not sure if you can see it clearly. Can you see how many heads it has? It has 2 heads, right? This is a bird with 2 heads. It's called a jivam jivaka, or a gumyocho. It's a 2-headed bird. So one, there's a red, one of the heads is red and it sort of curves up to the top. And then there's a blue head that goes straight out in front from the body. It's dark blue, so it makes it difficult to see, perhaps. Okay? So you can see the eyes. You can see the eyes on the blue, and then it's got a little bit of like a white tuft under its chin there. So it has a 2-headed bird. Right? And so this is a bird that appears in the Buddha's teachings, and there's a famous story about a 2-headed bird, and one of the heads' names was Garuda. The other head was Upagaruda. So it's this 2-headed bird. And the interesting thing about the 2-headed bird is that only one head will be awake at any time. So, it's a bird, it's going around, it's looking for food, it's trying not to get eaten by other animals, right? So it's going around, it finds something to eat, has a nice meal, gets sleepy, nods off, and as head number 1, as Garuda gets sleepy, Upagaruda wakes up. And, here we are. Okay, and then Upagaruda's up, wandering around, looking for food, trying not to get eaten, and, going, find something to eat, has a meal, gets sleepy, nods off, Garuda wakes back up. And so Upagaruda, Garuda, they're going through their life, and on one occasion, Garuda sees a beautiful, delicious flower. This bird loves to eat flowers, and it sees, this is the most delicious flower. It rarely blossoms. I will eat this flower, and it will bring nourishment and benefit to both of us. But I better eat it quickly because I never know when a predator is going to come and I'll have to fly away. So Garuda very promptly eats up this delicious flower, feels that warm feeling of a good meal in its tummy and says, Upagaruda will get to enjoy this warm feeling of a good meal as I nod off. Upagaruda wakes up and says, oh, look at this. This is the plant which blossoms the most delicious flower. I wonder if there are any flowers on there that we can eat. So it looks around and it's no flowers, but it looks like someone just ate the delicious flower. And then looks over to Garuda and sees one little flower petal hanging off of Garuda's beak and says, that Garuda, he ate up all the delicious flower and didn't leave any for me. So mad. It's like if you come home and you see a pizza box on the table and you're like, oh, I could really go for a slice of pizza. You open it up, it's empty, right? Oh, who ate the last piece? Right? That's the rage that Upagaruda was feeling in that moment. Oh, he says, oh, and he had that rage and he held it with him. And he finally found something to eat. He ate, fell asleep. Garuda woke up, says, oh, here we are. Oh, I sure hope Upagaruda enjoyed that feeling from eating that delicious flower. Back and forth like this. And the whole time, Upagaruda's holding in his heart this feeling of rage. He wakes up, he's like, oh, I'm going to get my revenge. I'm going to get my revenge on Garuda. And finally, he finds a poisonous plant, a terribly poisonous plant. And he says, if I eat this, oh, we'll have a bad tummy ache. This will show Garuda. This will show him. Oh, and he's looking forward to causing that pain for Garuda. And so, but Garuda eats up this poisonous plant, and immediately the searing pain in his stomach. Oh! And for the first time, both heads wake up at once. The pain is so intense. And Garuda says, what is happening? Upagaruda says, you ate that delicious flower without me. You didn't share any for me, and so now I ate this poisonous plant just to show you. And Garuda says, what are you doing? What are you doing? I ate that plant so that we could both enjoy the nourishment. I ate that plant so we could both have a good feeling. Vengeance, foolishness, that's what this is. This will never bring benefit to either of us. Now we're so sick, I don't know if we're going to survive. And they both died because of this poison. Now, the Buddha shared this story and he said, now, this story is a story about me and my life. In that lifetime, I was Garuda, who sought to bring benefit to all. Devadatta was Upagaruda, who thought only about his own comfort, and his mind was filled with rage and anger. And he carries that with him, lifetime after lifetime. So this is the nature of anger in our minds, right? If we're not able to awaken this heart of patience, we can carry this anger with us, lifetime after lifetime, moment to moment. And it can become like a trigger, right? We can be with the same person who made us mad and doing something completely different, totally out of context. And that anger comes back up. Something will trigger it, right? We can be with a completely different person who does something kind of like that person who annoys us, and all of a sudden we're getting angry, right? So in our minds, we cling and hold on to this anger in our minds, and it can cause suffering for ourselves and suffering for others. And suffering for others is suffering for ourselves, as this story shared by the Buddha illustrates. So how do we cross over to the other shore? How do we realize this mind of peace, this mind of patience, perfect this virtue of patience as taught by the Buddha? A couple of years ago now, I read a very moving Dharma talk, Dharma message in the Wheel of Dharma by our bishop, Reverend Marvin Harada, who said that the path of awakening in the Nembutsu is to awaken a childlike mind. A childlike mind. A childlike mind is a mind that is flexible, that is soft, that is gentle. Right? Just like these words of the 33rd vow, the mind that becomes gentle and soft in body and mind, right? I think about my 3-year-old son, right? I'm getting older. I'm 44 now, and it's getting harder and harder for me to pick things up. Bend over to pick things up. I'm starting to get stiff when I wake up in the morning. But my son, he's 3. He's so flexible, right? He pulls his leg and takes it all over the place. But he's also flexible in his mind, right? So anger is something that is like hardwired in our human experience, and it begins in early childhood as we begin to notice the difference between what we want and what other people want. So the other night, it was bedtime. It was past bedtime, actually. It was about 10 o'clock. I usually go to bed at 10 with my kids, before my kids, at the same time my kids go to bed, by 10 for sure, and then I wake up early. And so I was like nodding off. I was so sleepy, but my youngest son, he's 3, he had taken a nap, and so he was ready to go. And he had this book, Paw Patrol, Pups Save the Parade. And he said, "Daddy, yonde, read this book. And I said, "Daddy, nemutai yo, Daddy neta." And I said, "I'm so tired, I'm going to sleep." I'm nodding off, and I was like asleep. And he kept holding it in my face. "Yonde, read it, read this book." And then he put it right in front of my face and said, "Daddy, read this book. And still I'm like asleep, and he puts it on my face. And he pushes it on my face. It says, "Read this book." And then finally I'm like asleep. He's pushing me with this book. And so finally he picks it up and he gives me a whack on the head with the book. And I'm awake, but I'm not happy about this. And I try to maintain calm, and I say, we call him Monchan. Monchan, no hitting. Tatakanai de, no hitting. I've got to be firm about this. And then, wah! He starts crying, and it's that anger, that rage wakes up, and he's really, really mad. And so I take the blanket, which he loves, his favorite blanket, which he stole off the bed that my wife and I sleep in, and I put the blanket on top of him, and it's this nice soft blanket, and he just wraps up in it and just curls up and goes to sleep himself. The anger is forgotten. In that instant, this is the mind of a child, right? The anger, it rises, it pops up, but then it's gone. No trace. It leaves without a trace. As we get older, right, we learn to hold on to our anger. So how do we realize this soft, flexible, gentle mind, right? So in this passage I read from the larger sutra, it says that sentient beings, all of us living people, when we are touched by the light of the Buddha, touched by the light of the Buddha's wisdom, we become soft and gentle in our body and mind. And so to be touched by the light, to receive the wisdom, is to hear the Nembutsu, these words, Namo Amida Butsu. Amida is the Buddha of immeasurable life. And when these words reach our ears, they reach our hearts. And we can encounter the Nembutsu not just, with the power of our hearing, but with the kindness of others. That feeling of being embraced by the kindness of others, that encounter with the compassion of the Buddha. In that moment, we become soft and gentle in our body and mind. Sometimes when I get angry and I kind of something's got me mad and I'm holding on to it, I have trouble getting to sleep at night. I don't know if that happens to anybody. I'll stay up at night and I'm frustrated with something. And I remember one of my Sangha members down in San Mateo, she said to me once, sometimes I have trouble sleeping. She was a woman in her 80s, and she said, I don't sleep as well as I used to, but when I can't go to sleep, I just say Namo Amida Butsu. And then eventually I find that I'm asleep. And I thought that's such a wonderful way of dealing with all the things that come up in our minds, to hear the voice of the Buddha, to allow this light of wisdom and compassion to touch our hearts in the Nembutsu, and to become soft and gentle in body and mind. We think about Devadatta. He carries that rage with him lifetime after lifetime. But the child forgets the anger in a moment. Right? In the Nembutsu, we can receive that childlike mind. Namo Amida Butsu. Hear this, to be embraced and to recognize The Buddha's compassion embraces even me with all of my anger and frustration. So Ohigan is our time to turn our ears to the Buddha's teachings, to allow ourselves to be guided on our path to this world of awakening, where we realize that soft and gentle body and mind, where we perfect. We cross over to the other shore and realize the perfection of patience. Very difficult in this lifetime, but we know we're settled in that destination, and so it becomes easier to live in this world of difficulty and frustration. So this is my appreciation of the Buddha's teachings today. Once again, so wonderful to be here with all of you in the Hondo, to see your smiling eyes through your masks. And we'll conclude, I would like to conclude now by once again hearing these words of the larger sutra. Please join me in Gassho. When I attained Buddhahood, the sentient beings throughout the countless and inconceivable Buddha worlds in the 10 quarters, having received my light and having been touched by it, will become soft and gentle in body and mind, surpassing humans and devas in those qualities. Should it not be so, may I not attain the perfect enlightenment. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namam Dabutsu. Namam Dabutsu. Namam Dabutsu.
I will take off this blanket and be sure to think about the soft, warm, cuddly blanket, the words of the Buddha, to counteract my own two-headed bird. Thank you, Reverend Adams. Next, we'll sing a Gatha, Higan I, on page 190 in the Purple Service Book, and Kevin will also be displaying it on the screen.
Beyond the doors of
for the closing meditative reading. From Reverend Sanbutsuge, the Heart of the Buddha Dharma. My life is fleeting and finite, and I do not know this with certitude what tomorrow has in store for me. But in the transitory boundaries of my existence is the timeless flow of Amida's life. In the finite sound of my Nembutsu is Amida's voice of compassion tirelessly calling me. Like a small stream that enters the mighty current of the great river, so does my insignificant life in the Nembutsu join the majestic flow of Amida's infinite life. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Well, we've come to the end of the service. Thank you to Reverend Elaine Donlin for organizing this service, as she does many others. Reverend Henry Adams, our supervising minister, for your Dharma talk and for leading the chanting. Kevin Yoza for technical wizardry, making sure that our Zoom and live streams are working properly. And really to everyone here who attended the service in the Hondo and for those who've tuned in through Zoom. It's really been wonderful to share this time with you. Thank you so much for attending. I've got a couple of announcements. One is that we are having a board meeting today, hybrid, in person here in the Hondo as well as by Zoom. So if anybody would like to stay, it starts at 1:45 for the open session. And if anyone really would like to get the Zoom links in the future for any of these board meetings, if you're a member, you are totally welcome to come. So please email the office or call the office and ask for the Zoom link. Those meetings are open. In addition to that, I believe Reverend Donlin has some announcements.
Good morning. I'd like to begin by just thanking our BCSF Board President, Arlene for leading us, chairing this morning's special Ohigan Service. Thank you for that. I do want to make two announcements. One is that next week is our Lady Kujo service. Lady Kujo is a remarkable, was a remarkable woman, great poet, author from Japan, playwright, and an amazing humanitarian. And she just really models for me personally like the possibility of living the Nembutsu can be. So I invite everyone, that'll be a BWA hosted service, so I invite everyone to either show up or tune in next week for our special annual Lady Kujo Memorial Service. And then just a safety announcement, as I have been making after service regularly, as of April, you will not be required to register for services. However, we will maintain mandatory masking and mandatory vaccination, but you won't need to call the office as of April for our services. Keeping our fingers crossed that our numbers continue to improve as they have in San Francisco. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Were there any other announcements? Oh, okay.
Yes, I'd like to remind everyone that we have mindfulness meditation on Wednesday evenings from 6:30, and we also have our book club every other Thursday, and that meets at 1:30. We had our most recent meeting this past week, so it won't be this coming Thursday, but the Thursday after. And right now we're reading Strategies in Modern Living by Dr. Alfred Bloom, and what it is it's a study of the Tanisho. And so we read the Tanisho, and then we read Dr. Bloom's commentary on it. And then we discuss it. And we have some really great discussions. We have some retired senseis and reverends who are attending. For example, Reverend Kobata and Reverend Will Masuda have been attending. And so it's really a great opportunity to hear some people that are very well versed in these scriptures have a discussion on it. And even if you haven't read the book, you know, it's not a big deal. You can just come and listen. So if you're interested in either mindfulness meditation, it's Wednesdays at 6:30, the book club every other Thursday at 1:30, and all you have to do is contact the office for the Zoom link, and we'll send it to you. Thanks.
So this concludes, this concludes our spring Ohigan service. Thank you so much for joining us. One last Namo Amida Butsu. Amida Butsu. Amida Butsu.